Yes, this is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words, tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
There's insanity in the control room.
Who's got a hammer?
Y'all know what time it is. Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody. Welcome to the show. Gonna be a good one. Boy, do we have a lot of stories to get to. We've got a ton of stuff. We're gonna dive into it. We got pillow talk. We got Donald Trump walking out of an interview, basically hung up, but nonetheless, hilarious indeed. We got Marjorie Taylor Greene being Marjorie Taylor Greene. We have Sarah Palin, who really wants you to stop pounding the idea of sex into her head. Really hates it. Really hates it. We got all this stuff. We got anti-vaxxers drinking their own pee. Yes, lots and lots of fun stuff. I guess you could call that fun. Some people think it's fun. All right, anyway. Let's dive in. Please, everybody, like and share the show. Very important that you do so. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's do it. Dive right in. All right. All right.
Mr. President, if I'm one more question. I want to ask about a court hearing yesterday on January 6th. Judge Amit Mehta, he's gone. Okay.
That was former President Donald Trump noping out of an interview with NPR, which is fun. So now, basically, the entirety of the interview, of course, that he had with NPR, which, by the way, fun story, NPR's been trying to get him on for 6 years. 6 years. And they tried to book him for about 15 minutes. He stayed for approximately 9. And, of course, in those 9 minutes, Trump went on about nonsense conspiracy theories about, of course, the 2020 election, which he's obsessed about, and has been bitching about for about, at least a year? Yeah, probably longer. Probably longer. But anyway, now the host, Steve Inskeep, he kept pushing back, which is good. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. But now the thing is that when you push back against Donald Trump, it is essentially like hitting your forehead against a wall repeatedly. Just endless. That wall ain't moving, and you're just going to end up with a headache. And so throughout that interview, again, you had Inskeep pushing back, Donald Trump getting super irritated, because unlike Newsmax interviews, NPR was actually doing facts and not just agreeing with everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. In fact, I'm going to show you a few a little bit of a mashup of all the times Inskeep had to push back against Donald Trump's just insane falsehoods. Take a look.
I just have to point out Doug Logan, to name one of the states that you just named. Doug Logan, who ran the audit in Arizona that was set up by your allies, didn't find serious problems. This is a quote: "The ballots that were provided to us to count in the Coliseum very accurately correlate with the official canvass numbers." He raised a bunch of administrative issues, but didn't find a problem that would have changed the result at all.
States are just as bad.
Why did Republican officials in Arizona accept the results then?
Because they're rhinos.
Brett Ludwig, U.S. District Court in Wisconsin, who was nominated by you in 2020. He's on the bench, and he says, quote, "This court allowed the plaintiff the chance to make his case, and he has lost on the merits." Another quote, Corey Langhofer, your own campaign attorney in Arizona, November 12, 2020, quote, "We are not alleging fraud in this lawsuit. We are not alleging anyone stealing the election." And also Rudy Giuliani, your lawyer, November 18, 2020 in Pennsylvania, quote, "This is not a fraud case." Your own lawyers had no evidence of fraud. They said in court they had no evidence of fraud, and the judges ruled against you every time on the merits.
Is it true that there were far more votes than there were voters?
It is not true that there were far. It is not true.
That's a pretty tough problem.
It is not true that there were far more votes than voters. If you'll forgive me, maybe because the election was about you. If I can just move on.
Oh, that's pretty good. So, like, every time he's like, look, no, that's not true. Any of that, like, no, there weren't more voters. No. So now what's interesting is I wish journalism always worked like this. It doesn't matter who's sitting in the seat, Democrats or Republicans. I want tough questions. And I want questions that, tough but fair, obviously, and that are based on factual information. I'd love to see a corporate Democrat get grilled on this, and sometimes they do. And it's fantastic. So yes, that is how journalism is supposed to work. Everything that Inskeep said about the election was true. Now, Inskeep also brought up, he actually agreed with Trump during one portion of it by saying, which again is factually correct, that Donald Trump got more votes as a sitting president in any election. Again, totally true, right? Now, of course, the reason being that Trump had excited a lot of non-voters to vote in these elections in both 2016 and 2020. As we all know, voter apathy in this country is just abysmal. And so you only have a small chunk of eligible voters that normally voted, but in this last election, 160 million Americans. So now in 2020, the stakes were really, really high. And so, one of the reasons, of course, is the pandemic. And so more people turned out, simply put. And honestly, that's not even why Donald Trump lost. He lost because of the Electoral College. It's not because Joe Biden got more of the popular vote, right, by 7 million. No, he lost the Electoral College. Because in this country, we have a system where a few, thousands of, tens of thousands of voters in swing states or certain areas, they somehow get to decide the election for the rest of us instead of having a election or direct democracy. And so that said, even voters in the swing states, there weren't enough of them. There just weren't enough of them. And so, and by the way, there weren't enough of them in 2020. There were enough of them in 2016, even though the fact that Donald Trump still lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton by 3 million votes, and then again to Joe Biden in 2020 by 7 million. And so that's how the system works. But here's the thing. While 2016 was about Hillary Clinton, mainly, being the face of the establishment, 2020 wasn't about Joe Biden. It was about Donald Trump. And so I'll say that any corporate Democrat would have beaten Donald Trump by some margin because of how badly Trump bungled COVID and how people, in their own words, wanted to go back to normal. And that's essentially it. And so that's the situation. All right. Now I'm gonna show you one more video here from this interview, and it actually has to do with a good question about, does Donald Trump expect the Republican Party to continue to talk about this election, and do they need to do that to have Trump's support?
Are you telling Republicans in 2022 that they must press your case on the past election in order to get your endorsement? Is that an absolute?
They're going to do whatever they want to do. Whatever they have to do, they're going to do. But the ones that are smart, the ones that know, you take a look at how Carrie Lake is doing, running for governor. She's very big on this issue. She's leading by a lot. People have no idea how big this issue is, and they don't want it to happen again. It shouldn't be allowed to happen, and they don't want it to happen again. And the only way it's not going to happen again is you have to solve the problem of the presidential rigged election of 2020.
Mr. President,
if I'm
one more question. I want to ask about a court hearing yesterday on January 6th. Judge Amit Mehta, he's gone. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, it was pretty much that. And that's when he had enough. So now, to get to the substance of this, right? Donald Trump has the Republican Party captured. To kind of answer that question, yes, Republicans will have to continue to support these election nonsense lies, or at least come out with like vague statements like, oh, the voter fraud and all of that stuff, in order to at least get Donald Trump's support. And earlier in the interview, he was talking about Mike Rounds and how Mike Rounds, what a rhino, because he said that we lost the 2020 election. I didn't lose. I won very bigly. And so, now look, this is, I mean, I've given you the polls before where about 2/3 of all Republicans think that Biden stole the election from Trump. I mean, this is just total insanity. And so when it comes to the Republican Party, they've got a problem. If Donald Trump runs in the 2024 election, he's probably going to win the next primary. Again, I don't know for certain because it's still pretty far away, but so far, Donald Trump is crushing everyone. An October Quinnipiac University poll showed that among Republicans, 78% of them would like to see Donald Trump run again. Now, what's this whole thing that the Democrats keep saying? Oh, we want a strong Republican Party. Gee, why would you want that? I'll get into that in other segments, but basically, you have other polls that show Donald Trump being ahead of everybody else, including Ron DeSantis, who now Donald Trump is attacking, Ted Cruz, of course, and many others. And so anybody who runs, if Donald Trump doesn't, anybody who runs in any office for the Republican Party is going to have to get the approval of Donald Trump, essentially. So they've made that bed. Now they're going to have to sleep in it. Finally, let me just do one more kind of nonsense point. So, as I mentioned, NPR tried to set up that interview for 6 years. And since it was not a softball interview, Donald Trump didn't want to do it up until now. And then, even promising them 15 minutes was too much of a sad little baby. Didn't want to hear the truth, got super triggered, by facts and information, and even the gentlest pushback from NPR. Again, he asked good questions, and it was pushback, but it's like super nice pushback. It's super professional. Again, what do you expect from NPR, right? Even though I think that they did a good job on this one, it was too much. Too much. Can't handle those questions. Got super triggered, and then hung up. And that's it. Baby, sad. So, all right, let's move on to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said that violence is now on the table when it comes to fighting against vaccines and mask mandates. So now this, she basically said this in an interview with right-wing host Sebastian Gorka, and said that it might be time to use a phrase that we have heard before from Trump and others, Second Amendment solutions. against so-called tyranny. Take a look.
They're coming for our guns and for our civil rights, are they not?
Oh, of course they are. Democrats, they hate our Second Amendment because ultimately the truth is it's our Second Amendment rights, our right to bear arms that protect Americans and give us the ability to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government. And I hate to use this language, but Democrats, they're doing exactly what our founders talked about when they gave us these precious rights that we have. And you know, no one wants violence, and I say it all the time. I'm not a violent person, and I hope to never see a civil war in this country. And that's why you hear me toss around national divorce, because the federal government has grown so big, and the Democrats are willing to use the power of the federal government that it really violates people's rights.
Hey, look, I'm not a violent person. I don't want to see a civil war, but I'm totally going to push the civil war. Hey, look, that's what I heard here. All right. I mean, what do you think a national divorce is? Now, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, honestly, but that's the rhetoric coming out from not only Marjorie Taylor Greene, but of course, Ted Cruz and other far right wingers. And I mean, what is that? What's a national divorce? What are we talking about? It's just a different term for secession. Seceding from the United States, literally leaving to form your own country. That's what that is. Now, the last time we had a so-called national divorce, you know what that led to? Civil war. That's literally what started it. Again, and it wasn't the North that started the Civil War. No, it was the people who left the Union and then assaulted Fort Sumter. Make no mistake, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not only pro-insurrection, she's actually anti-American, which is, again, she is literally against America as a whole. If you are sitting here and you are talking about having a quote-unquote national divorce and doing a secession and going and leaving the United States of America to create your own country, you are by definition not a patriot. The opposite of a patriot. And so you can't sit there and claim to love this country and then try to leave it. Again, you can't get more anti-American than that. All right. And first, and more, okay? She's also talking about right-wingers in the context of mask and vaccine mandates picking up their guns. And now she referenced Stacey Abrams as well. Okay, so now you're picking up guns or urging people to pick up their guns and use it against a black government official. Huh. Dangerous rhetoric from a very dangerous person. And so, I mean, and again, all this over masks and vaccines during a pandemic. I mean, how dare they try to do the bare minimum to keep regular people safe? Oh my God. No. We want all the people to get the COVID because that's true freedom. Yeah, I might not be able to breathe, or I might be taking up the room in the hospital, but God damn it, I'm free. And by the way, let me talk about big government, right? So she also talked about how the government has grown so incredibly large. Oh, it's such big government. And that's why we're against, that's why we're calling for a national breakup. Oh, yes, a big government. Now, you know what big government is? Well, that's a lot of things, it turns out. Nobody really has a good definition for it. But for me, it's spending $768 billion a year to blow up brown kids in other countries. It's forcing teachers to not teach critical race theory in schools, which they already don't, but basically applying that moniker, critical race theory, to basically anything that actually teaches the actual history of African Americans in this country, and then banning it. That's big government. How about, trying to outlaw stuff that people do in their bedrooms, in the privacy of their own homes? How about telling people that they're not allowed to protest against oil pipelines, forcing people to purchase private insurance from large corporations Yeah, I'm talking about that mandate, the ACA mandate, which, by the way, what do you think the Affordable Care Act, where did that come from? That was a Heritage Foundation plan. That was a conservative health plan that was adopted by corporatists to try to stop Medicare for all. What's big government? Big government's also trying to prevent people from voting. It's trying to literally stop democracy by closing down polling places and purging voters, doing things like voter ID. It's directing public money to giant corporations like charter schools and into oil subsidies. Both Republicans and Democrats love big government when it helps them with their side, when it helps their donors. So understand that's the issue. Now, do you see Marjorie Taylor Greene pushing back against oil subsidies? No, of course not. She loves that kind of big government because that helps the donors. You think she pushes back against the military budget? No, of course not. So understand that that big government has a different meaning depending on who you ask, honestly. And so that's why there's no real definition of big government, because they basically pick and choose what they like and what they don't like about government. And so, for example, programs that they like Medicare and Social Security, that's not big government. Get your government hands off my Medicare. I agree. You should. You should keep your hands off Medicare and Social Security. In fact, you should expand those. You should expand Medicare to everybody. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Fantastic. And I think a lot of Republican voters would actually also agree, as do a lot of the American people as well. But as I said, other things that are popular that are so-called big government, stimulus checks during COVID. Very, very popular. That's also big government. Medicare is, again, Social Security, big government. The American people love those programs. And whenever an election rolls around, Republicans who keep trying to privatize it and cut Social Security and Medicare, well, they suddenly come out and say, oh, we love these programs. What are you talking about? Medicare and Social Security, we love it. We love it. Yes, we will protect Medicare and Social Security while working to cut it. I know that's a tangent, but it really kind of points out how they're not even consistent on the things that they say that they believe. As far as Marjorie Taylor Greene is concerned, she's a troll. She is a troll that is pushing violence against her political opponents. She is a deeply hateful person. And by the way, if she hates the government so much, and I guess I asked this question for pretty much all the people who hate government, why are you in it? Why are you a congressperson? Why are you working for the government if you hate it so much? Why is she even in government? Why are any of them in government? Well, the answer, of course, is this. Because they want to destroy it from within. They want to destroy it from within and allow their donors, the owner donors, to take over, to privatize government, and to make money. That's it. All right. Moving on. I don't know what that was. There's like stuff that is falling around me. Weird. All right. In case you thought that they couldn't get even crazier, anti-vaxxers are now telling their own followers to drink their own pee. In fact, I'm going to show you a video here. This is prominent anti-vaxxer Christopher Key, who is touting the so-called benefits of urine therapy for protection against COVID-19.
I've been practicing this for 20 years, and everybody's always said I'm cray-cray, and I am, but I'm crazy like a fox, okay? And guys, when I tell you this, please, take it with a grain of salt, but go do the research, okay? because this is going to just be like, there's no way. But the antidote, and I'm going to kill my credibility. What credibility do I have anyway? So, the antidote that we've seen now, and we have tons and tons of research, is urine therapy. Okay? And I know to a lot of you, this sounds crazy, but guys, God's given us everything we need. Okay? And I'm going to give you, again, I test and prove all things. Okay? This has been around for centuries. We've got research after research, documented, peer-reviewed, published papers on urine. We do. We have this. Okay? But they have been doing for the last 9 months now. And what he has right now is all anecdotal because, again, you know, to put together a randomized double-blind placebo study with this is kind of tough. But I'm going to give you some stuff. You gotta know. The chlorine dioxide was rough enough, but now drink urine.
It's anecdotal. That's what it is. He can't even say anecdotal right. But yes, we should absolutely take medical advice from this guy. What? But you know what's funny? Is that in this, he actually is kind of self-aware. Like, I know this is going to destroy my credibility. You think? You think? I mean, come on. Now, look, let's get one thing straight, okay? No, drinking pee does not do anything about COVID-19. It just doesn't. And look, part of me thinks that maybe this guy is not serious. Like, seriously telling people to do so, but like going, I wonder if I can get these idiots to drink their own pee. I don't know if that's the case, but I wouldn't put it past some of these people. But again, don't do it. It does not stop COVID-19. It is a waste product. There's no medicinal value in it. That said, it wouldn't be the worst thing that anti-vaxxers have drank lately. I mean, do you remember when, of course, Donald Trump talked about injecting disinfectant or drinking bleach? Or some of the grifters like Candace Owens talking about drinking colloidal silver. I think Alex Jones also sells colloidal silver. That can turn you blue. Not to mention taking hydroxychloroquine, which can have negative impacts on cardiovascular health. Ivermectin, which dosed incorrectly, can be very harmful, if not deadly, and again, has no proven impact on treating or preventing COVID-19. Worse, there are QAnoners in Dallas that were drinking a mixture involving chlorine dioxide, of which ingestion can lead to respiratory failure, potentially fatal abnormal heart rhythm, extremely low blood pressure, acute liver failure, and the destruction of red blood cells. So I guess out of all the fake cures that they're doing, I guess drinking OP ain't that bad. But still, I wouldn't recommend it. That is, again, if you're into that, that's totally fine. You will find no kink shaming or any judgment here. Just know that this does absolutely nothing for COVID-19. Okay? Again, if you're going to do it because, you're into that, here we go. If you're going to do that, I mean, just know that there's just no health benefits to it. What is so difficult about taking a vaccine? Honestly. I can't. I can't. Okay. Moving on. Let's go to Sarah Palin, because this is always fun. Former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin is getting real tired of liberals forcing her to think about sex.
That obsession with sex. Look how the liberals, Rachel, want to pound that into the public's head, that advertising who is attracted to who, what people do in the privacy of their own bedrooms, all those things that have to do with privacy and sex. The liberals, not the conservatives, are the one who pound after that.
Sarah, phrasing. We talk about pound. No, look, the entire thing is both nonsensical and hilarious. But of course, you know, we're talking about Sarah Palin here, so obviously it has to be nonsensical. But here's the thing. So now, AOC went to Florida, and she got COVID, right? Well, yeah, that happens, right? Mild case of COVID. She is fully vaccinated, but conservatives, they jumped all over, right? But not in a literal sense, although some probably wanted to. You know, oh my God, a hypocritical AOC not wearing a mask in public, even though she's fully vaccinated and she's outside. Oh my God, she's got COVID. All right, but there was a picture that was taken because, you know, people, creepy people, are going there and taking pictures. And Steve Cortez, he decides to focus on AOC's feet. I'm sorry, AOC's boyfriend's feet. So it's even worse. Here's what he tweeted. Her guy is showing his gross, pale male feet in public. Not at a pool/beach with hideous sandals. Steve. Nobody cared about his feet. Except for you. I mean, like, I don't know what it is, but this guy like immediately zoomed into, oh, would you look at that guy's feet? Pale. They're male feet, unlike beautiful female feet. Oh, yes. I mean, you know, what are we talking about? Oh, yes, AOC, total hypocrite. Yes, that's what it is. Now, look, here's the thing. Again, not going to kink shame. If you're into that, that's totally fine. But I just thought it was really, really strange that this is the thing that he was going to bring up in a tweet as a criticism of AOC. It has nothing to do, her boyfriend's feet has nothing to do with her not wearing a mask. Why would you do that? Why would you bring that up? It makes no sense. But again, she responded with this. If Republicans are mad that they can't date me, they could just say that instead of projecting their sexual frustrations onto my boyfriend's feet. You creepy weirdos. And added, I'm starting to get old ignoring the very obvious, strange, and deranged sexual frustrations that underpin the Republican fixation on me, women, and LGBT plus people in general. And look, let's be honest, it's true. It's true. There are people in Congress, by the way, that are more to the left, more radical than AOC. I mean, they don't get half the attention. And these are, again, other members of the squad, right? For example, Rashid Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. They've had some more radical positions than AOC. And there are a couple of examples, but they're not focused on. I mean, yes, Ilhan Omar sometimes, but then, you know, it's really like people like Lauren Boebert that are going after her and saying all these horrible things. But again, AOC is the one that gets a lot of this attention. And so, you know, it's a little strange. And you wonder why. Well, I think it's because there are definitely men on the right who find her physically attractive. And now, let me just say that Sarah Palin is no stranger, I think, to that at all. In fact, I think, look, a lot of Republican men, I'm pretty certain that they voted for her and supported her because she was hot, or they believed that she was hot. And let me give you my own anecdotal evidence, which again is anecdotal, but it's just something that I've experienced. One of my former roommates was a Republican, you know, conservative. I shared a rental house with him and his girlfriend at the time. And this was, you know, back in 2008, obviously. And there was the election, Obama versus McCain and Palin. And so I was like, well, why are you voting for McCain? You know, And he said, well, I like John McCain because John McCain knows war. Again, we're talking about Republicans here, so obviously. And his response for Palin is, also, Sarah Palin's like super hot. Oh, is that what that is? Oh, so war and hot conservative lady hot. I mean, if I were, again, into politics, if I had been into politics back then, I would have asked, okay, what policies did Sarah Palin do that you appreciated? Because she was governor of Alaska and literally did socialism. She sent out oil checks, nationalized, the country, or I'm sorry, not the country, but the state's oil revenue, and handed it out to citizens. I actually thought that was pretty good. So now, I mean, being a conservative, you obviously would be against that, right? Oh no, because she's hot. At least that's what they believed. And again, that's just my anecdotal experience, but it seems like a lot of Republican men really don't even care about policy. It's just about hot women hot. Yeah, that's what she is. Conservative woman, very, very hot. Yeah. And by the way, it's because of living with that person that I actually became aware of an adult film that starred a Palin lookalike. I believe the name of that was Who's Nailin' Sarah Palin, I believe, or something along those lines. And I'm like, well, that explains a lot. It does. But anyway, back to some substance here. So now you want to talk about how the liberals are obsessed with sex, right? Oh, it's the liberals. See, the libs are obsessed with the sex and then, all that stuff. And okay, but then why is it conservatives who are making all these laws to ban trans people from certain bathrooms? Gay people from the military? Telling women that they need to dress modestly. All these attacks on, feminism, right? And by the way, Fox News used to do an entire segment about spring break. Do you remember those times? Remember they would go and they would basically interview, like they'd send someone to like Florida, whatever, during spring break, and interview them, and then sit there and moralize about how, oh my God, do you see all these women in bikinis? Oh my God, how terrible! What a terrible thing that we are showing you all the pictures of and the video here. We're just going to show that to you. In fact, I have some. This is a video. This was Fox News, Sean Hannity, back in 2014, talking about this. Take a look.
So you saw women take their tops off, all right? You saw guys, I know because the producer sent me pictures, guys were literally taking their pants off.
Yes, mooning the camera.
Mooning the camera.
That guy who we talked to had smoked pot there on the beach, was high as a kite, you could tell in his eyes.
Right.
Admitted it on camera.
Right.
You have people having sex on the beach in public.
And in public.
In public.
And you saw that, but
yes.
you can't show that.
Right. One girl, everyone's handing out those beads, like Mardi Gras beads, and girls are flashing for our cameras.
Beads.
Yes. One girl a few days ago, we did a ride along with the sheriff's department, and that's going to be tomorrow's segment. But he showed us pictures from 2 or 3 days ago. One girl was standing on a box on the beach with her bottoms off, letting guys do whatever they wanted to her. One time I went to Cancun in college, and I was appalled at what I saw. This is now here in America. Kids are doing this down in Florida.
Oh my God, I am so appalled. Look at all these pictures, Sean. I'm just so appalled at what's happening. And he's like, oh yeah, totally appalled. Yep. Yeah. And by the way, their audience would totally be appalled as well as soon as they finished. I mean, come on, dude. Well, you think it's the left that's obsessed with sex? Now, how come Ken Cuccinelli literally tried to ban oral sex? I mean, he ran on that platform of trying to ban oral sex. You're kidding. You're kidding. And by the way, speaking of Fox News here, Roger Ailes used to watch his channel, Fox, with the sound off. Now, why was that? Well, so he could gauge the attractiveness of the female hosts that weren't even when he was he was in control of Fox News when he was still alive. These women were not allowed to wear pants. They had to wear skirts or dresses. And so, come on. The entire premise, the entire idea that it's the left that's obsessed with sex and it's a pound, 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 pound. Hilarious. Hilarious. There is no group in America that is more openly, creepily horny than old conservative men who tend to make up the entirety of the Fox News audience. Hilarious. All right. Oh, Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, y'all bring up some pretty good, some pretty good points there as well. All right. They weren't watching news to get the news, says Weary Pirates. Yep, it's true. It's true. And you know, you always wonder why every woman on Fox News basically looks the same, blonde. Well, it's because that's what the audience wants. Carrie Sager points out women are just earthen vessels and pieces of meat to the right. Fox Nudes channel. Yep. Again, it's like somebody needs to come out there with the bonk stick, you know, for all these horny conservative men. All right. Let's see. Moving on. Mike Pillow, what you're all here for. I know you're all here for it. So let's do it. Mike Pillow claims that he has the evidence. And he's got so much evidence, so much in fact, that he has enough to arrest all of America almost. That means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
So you saw women take their tops off. All right, you saw guys. I know because the producer sent.
Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy. But you haven't. Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
Yeah, I just realized my audio was off. All right. So MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell was recently on America's Voice. Because of course he was, since they're the only ones crazy enough to give this guy any sort of airtime. And in this next video, he's going to say some very, very interesting things about the evidence that he has. Take a look.
God gave me this platform. Everything you're going to see over these next 7 months to get rid of the machines, you're going to see the Supreme Court case coming out, all these great things, everybody. More optimistic today than I have been yesterday, the day before that. I'm on an incline like this. Why? Because it's so amazing. All the things that we already have all the pieces of the puzzle. And you talk about evidence. We had enough evidence to put everybody in prison for life, 300 and some million people. We had that all the way back to November, December. But what we have are these other things that had to happen, which was all evil revealing itself. I mean, evil's popping up like pocket gophers. I mean, they pop their heads up. It's whack-a-mole, right? I mean, it's everywhere. And
it's the evil. It's popping up like gophers. Wow. No, okay. I mean, 300 million people. Oh my God. Does that mean he's on to us? He's on to all of us. He's on to the entire country. I mean, you know, the women, children, non-voters. He's on to all of us. And we're all going to go to prison, despite the fact that there's actually not enough prison space in the entire country. But hey, okay, all right. And besides, you know that only 160 million people voted in 2020, right? How did he get more than double the number? 300 million? 300 million? I mean, that is something. That is something. Now, again, you realize that if we're talking about people in America, right? People in the United States, 300 million. Well, I mean, again, Donald Trump got 70 million votes. So, you know, out of a country of 332 million, that means that a significant number of Trump supporters would also go to prison. The math is, it's a little sus. It's a little suspect. It's not his strong suit, for sure. Now, by the way, I just want to point out another nonsense point. Whatever's going on in this woman's head, I would love to know. You look at that face. All right, this is either, oh my God, what is she talking about? I'm interviewing a crazy person, and now I just have to sit and shut up and smile and pretend, or it could be, oh my God, it's the pillow guy. Oh my God, I'm talking to the pillow guy. Honestly, I can't, the fact that I can't really tell is just, I mean, it creeps me out a little bit. It just creeps me out. Complete and utter insanity. Okay. All right. Let's move on. We got one more segment here. It is the segment that I've been promising you for some time now. And it is an alleged anti-evolution project. So we all know Republicans have been waging a war on science and facts for literally decades. Now, they've been doing so, of course, by targeting public schools, defunding them, trashing teachers' unions, going after them, labeling anything that has to do with embarrassing racial history as critical race theory, which isn't even taught in K through 12 education, by the way, and try to push creationism in schools by forcing teachers to teach the controversy. What controversy? Well, the controversy that doesn't exist, of course. Now, they also push for public investments in private charter schools, of course, giving public money to private corporations. That takes funding away from public schools and goes into often religiously based organizations and schools. And they try to entice people through, of course, vouchers to transfer their children there with the promise of a fully funded, better education. Now, oftentimes that's not the case. Michigan's a great example of the failures of charter schools. And this story as well is another example of failure. Now, a Redditor claiming to be a parent who sends their kids to a private school in a rural area of Texas recently shared a paper outlining a school project. So now the username is SR Mackman, and here's what they wrote. My daughter has a project at her private school, the negatives of living in rural Texas. And so it reads as follows. Statement. Scientists claim that dinosaurs lived over 200 million years ago. Everything you read isn't true. They go on to, of course, contradict the everything you read isn't true by saying, the Bible is the only book that is completely true. If you read the Bible and study its history, you will see the world can't be that old. The Bible tells us that God created the world about 6,000 years ago, not millions of years ago. Another statement. Scientists believe that animals today evolved and have adaptations from dinosaurs. Response. Many people do not want to believe that God created everything. They want to believe that everything happened by chance. They want to believe that somehow things just started to exist without God and form into all the amazing and wonderful creatures we have today. Did the person who wrote this, who started this project, and I don't even see what the whole point is, but the Redditor only shared like one single page, so we don't know like the depth of this project. But from what I'm seeing, like, did this person never hear of birds? Birds are the literal descendants of dinosaurs. I mean, and again, we find out that it was most likely dinosaurs were not covered in scales, but actually feathers. So not only that, but did you know that there are some species of crocodile who actually lived about 140 million years ago that are nearly unchanged from that same time period? So that's a species that has been incredibly successful in their niche, and hasn't really needed to evolve all that much. It's kind of amazing how that works. And so now let's go on to the next statement. This is great. Scientists are smart. They study things like this all the time. Response. Scientists don't know everything, especially things that happened before they were born. Oh, is that the criteria? They make lots of mistakes, and sometimes they want to believe something so bad. Ah, yes, something so bad. And that's, of course, the cutoff. Now, here's the thing. Of course, scientists don't know everything. The whole point of science is to discover things, is to come up first with a hypothesis, test a hypothesis, and see what the answer is, what the result is. If they're wrong, they go back to figure out where they went wrong and try something else. If they're right, they continue to do more testing. They share their findings with their other scientists and do peer review. Other scientists can then test it and figure out if they did something wrong. And so what I'm describing here is a process, and it's a long process. And ultimately, that process is not about proving things right. It's actually about proving things wrong. And if you can't find a way to prove something wrong, then it becomes what we know as a theory, right? And a theory in science, in the scientific method, is basically something that hasn't been disproven yet, and so is considered basically established science, all right? And is generally accepted by the scientific community. Now, that doesn't prevent, and the way that this is set up is just for this purpose. Later on, future scientists, when they start to know more things, they can come in and they can run more tests and experiments and do more observations with newer equipment or newer technologies or more ideas to go and again try to prove these theories incorrect. And so whoever wrote this has absolutely no, like they don't understand what actual science is. And I don't think that's by accident. In fact, again, a lot of these, these religious schools, these creationists, I mean, they'll write some of the craziest things, and then they'll just pass it off as basically a wizard did it, the sky wizard. It's the sky wizard. Don't you understand? Like, just replace the word God with sky wizard, and you start to sound like an insane person. And that's what it is. And they completely discount and purposely misunderstand the process of science, even going so far as to call it a religion, which it is clearly not. A religion is a religion. Science is a process. So now, my favorite part of this is great because they say that, oh, well, you know, scientists, they don't know the things that happened before they were born. Okay, but there's something called history, you know? That, I mean, it's a very interesting argument because they, you know, do they realize that the Bible was written almost 2,000 years ago? Over 2,000 if you count the Old Testament. And by the way, within that time period, it was translated, rewritten, revised. There was the Council of Nicaea that went through and threw out, texts that they didn't like. They took things out they didn't like and kept things in. And so it's, but hey, it's the scientists that don't know. That's what it is. It's the scientists, because at that time, they weren't even born. Okay, but the writers of the Bible, however, they were also, a lot of them also were not born at that time. Yet somehow they are correct because how? It doesn't make any sense. And look, here's the thing though. I'm not trying to trash religious people. I'm not actually trying to trash faith here, right? So now, and the reason I can say that is because it's fine if you believe in a God. I don't have any problem with that. But you got to understand that the Bible is a work of man. And it's filled with weird contradictions, parables, and basically rules to live by. And by the way, there's also an entire section that tracks the genealogy of ancient Israelites. Those are not a substitute for actual, like, facts. These parables and things. All right? And again, you know, who's to say that a God or God couldn't have said like things like, oh, here's some evolution. I gave you evolution. That could be true. We don't know. At least I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not claiming to know what happened. But again, the whole thing is super comical when you think about it. But to the overall lesson here, this is how education gets destroyed. That parent sent their kid to a private school. They paid for it. And this is what they got. This is what they get. And so why pay for it and then get mad that you're getting a subpar education for your money if that's what you literally sent your kid to school to learn? It doesn't make any sense. And so maybe they didn't know ahead of time. Maybe they do. I think it's very likely that they probably did. I feel like in a little bit more context, but that said, it's definitely believable that this is being taught in Texas. In fact, some of the comments say that their experience in the ultra-Christian schools are pretty similar to this. In fact, one person named Christy Chick said they didn't even teach evolution at all in my science classes at mine. There was maybe a single mention about how it is wrong, but still widely believed, and that's it. Actually, most I learned about evolution as a kid was from a video my parents had me watch about some popular Christian guy supposedly disproving the theories. Needless to say, my mind was completely blown when I got older and saw exactly how fundamentally wrong he was on some subjects, which of course caused young adult me to figure out if he couldn't even get the basics right, then he was probably wrong about everything. You know the saying. The biggest source of atheism is just reading the Bible. And now, another person says, my school had some creationists come in and shout, but were you there at creation? How do you know the Big Bang happened? The Bible says creation happened. Where's your evidence? And adds, as if the existence of Harry Potter books proves that Harry Potter is a real boy. Again, it's the weirdo pretzel logic. Just admit that you don't know. Again, nothing wrong with faith. Saying, I believe in a higher power, totally fine. But to point at something that some dude wrote down in a book 5,000, or I'm sorry, not 5,000, but 500 to 1,000, 1,500 years ago, and say, that's 100% true, and there's no, and it's like super magical weirdo shit, then I'm gonna count, I'm gonna say bullshit on that, and say no, that I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. It's just insanity. And again, the big problem that I have with a lot of this private education is that you have public money that is going to this. You are starving schools that teach actual facts. And by the way, these public schools, there's a lot of problems with public schools. A lot of it comes from lack of funding and of course, curriculums that allow this stuff to get into the syllabus into the first place. And so now what's interesting here is I mentioned that this is Texas. Now, public money going to private schools is legal in Texas. In fact, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick loves this. Oh my God, I love subsidizing private schools with money stolen from public schools. But now, interestingly enough, the majority Republican Texas House does not agree. In fact, last year, they attempted to ban private school vouchers. Now, that is not something I expected from Texas, honestly. The vote was actually 115 to 29 in the Texas House in favor of an amendment to ban school vouchers. That said, I haven't seen any more movement on banning school choice vouchers in Texas, at least from the governor, of course. And look, we know the governor, Greg Abbott, is another one of these people who absolutely loves defunding public schools. But what's interesting is that you do have Republicans at the state level that are saying, yeah, this is an absolute disaster. These private schools, these school, vouchers, we might want to not do that. Maybe they realize that this is what this is the kind of stuff that they're paying for. Well, in that case, good. I hope they do ban those vouchers. We should absolutely do, I believe, what Finland had done and just ban private schools altogether. And I know some people will be like, oh my God, we ban private schools. What are you talking about? School choice, school choice. The reason that a lot of people take their kids out of these schools is because they're underfunded. Imagine if you were to get all the rich people that, go to private schools, send their kids to private schools. Imagine what would happen to the schools if rich kids had to go to the public school. Oh, suddenly things might get a lot better. Just imagine. All right. Anyway, that's all I got today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Let me read some, let's see. I don't have any super chats today, or at least none have showed up on my screen, which is interesting. All right. Jayhawker41, the Ball Dragon, gifted a tier 1 sub. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yesterday, I believe I forgot to give a shout out to Realin86. Thank you very much for subscribing again at tier 1. I did miss some super chats yesterday that I'm going to go and read. So let me just pull those up. If you just give me a minute here to go and get those. And if you haven't already, by the way, please like and share, sub to the channel if you haven't already. Again, very, very important that you do so. Let's see. Super chats. Freaking awkward. All right. Dango Bangle yesterday said people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are low skilled. Gabby Mathis adds, I used to like 60 Minutes, but this was bad. Pay workers a livable wage. Thank you, Gabby. Dango Bangle says, it's got a bunch of them from him. So at this point, I'm surprised that Democrats aren't pushing to disqualify a bunch of Republicans for enabling and supporting such a criminal workplace. I'm not surprised at all, honestly. Because look, if Democrats fail and Republicans get into power, that actually helps the Democrats. Now, what in the world are you talking about, Jeff? What do you mean it helps the Democrats? Because the Democrats don't have to. Well, I mean, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to actually listen to the constituents and pass policy. it takes the pressure, it takes the heat off of them. And then, of course, they can fundraise off how Republicans bad, which again, I agree, Republicans are bad. But that's not that's right. It's just being used in this case as a fundraising tool and not actually a tool to get into power and change and do some actual policy. So I'm not surprised at all. DeSantis has consolidated power, taking control of Florida completely, to turn the state into an effective kingdom, according to fellow Republicans. Not a surprise. Let's see. Got a couple of more super chats that have come in. Thank you, Rialan N, for the very kind donation as well. Appreciate that. Let's see. And Dago Bangle again says, didn't conservatives push the entire ban all forms of copulation that does not result in the creation of a zygote? I would assume they would. I haven't heard, but I wouldn't at all be surprised by that. And let's see, one more here, clarification. When I said criminal workplace, I was really talking about an environment like Fox with all the sexual abuse in the cases of that happening. Again, I mean, let me see if I can remember exactly what I had said so I can respond to that. Let's see. Again, Fox News, absolutely criminal workplace. But the problem is, big corporation never really gets in trouble. Never really gets in trouble. Not really. I mean, the person that did get in trouble was Roger Ailes, who, got booted out and then died shortly after. But the Fox News is still the same. Bill O'Reilly also got pushed out, to be fair, with his, because of his falafel, if you remember that. But as far as like the actual, company or culture itself, I don't really see it as being all that unchanged because there are no actual punishments for the companies that run these toxic workplaces that you were saying. Like an Activision Blizzard type of workplace. Yeah, and again, there'd have to be a lot of removals from people in positions of power at Fox News for it even to change the culture. And there were only a couple of them. And so I don't see I don't really see that there's going to be that much of a change at any of these workplaces because they don't hold the company themselves accountable. If that makes sense. All right. That said, let's read into somebody here on Twitch. And if you haven't already, you can use your Amazon Prime to subscription to sub to us on Twitch if you haven't already. And you can follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook as well. All that wonderful stuff. All right, everybody. Do a surfy raid. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. Have a great night. And we'll see you on Thursday.
There's insanity in the control room.
Who's got a hammer?
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
I like my meat tight.
Please clap. They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.